Thank you, guys. That was beautiful. And they're color coordinated today. It's a nice touch. So my talk this morning is wrestling with angels, or if you've come from my section of the country, wrestling with angels. Same thing. And I'm talking about a remarkable story that's both in the Jewish and Christian scriptures. But it's interesting how in Judaism, they will take the same stories, but they emphasize it in a different way. And this one is about Jacob, and he's facing one of the most difficult moments of his life. Earlier in his life, he had deceived his brother and had to flee to save himself. And many years later, he's returning back home. And he's been abandoned by his tribe. He's at the river going to see his brother, and he's heard that his brother is coming with 400 troops. And he doesn't know if his brother is coming to embrace him or to kill him. So naturally, he's afraid. He camps out by the river, and in Scripture it says a mysterious person, a mysterious being shows up. And he wrestles with this being all night. Now, in some translation, the being is called a man. Some it's called an angel. And some it's even God itself. Whatever it is, Jacob refuses to let go until the dawn. And then something extraordinary happens. The angel says, "Let me go, the day is breaking." And Jacob says, "I'm not going to let you go until you bless me." And the angel does bless him. But the struggle leaves him wounded. His hip is injured, and he will limp for the rest of his life. But he also receives a new name. He no longer will go by Jacob. He now is Israel. Israel, one who wrestles with God. Now, Jewish interpreters, they say this story is not just about physical struggle. It's about wrestling with the deeper questions of life, wrestling with grief and injustice, disappointment and doubt, wrestling with the idea of God itself. And perhaps this is the most powerful spiritual lesson we can learn. Faith isn't the absence of struggle. Faith is remaining in relationship with Spirit even as we struggle. Sometimes we imagine that spiritual maturity means never having questions, never doubting, never becoming angry, never wrestling. But that isn't what we see in Scripture. Abraham, he had challenges. So did Moses, so did Job, so did all the prophets. Even Christ on the cross cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Spiritual life has never been about blind certainty. It always involved struggle. It always is about going back to our truth. There's an amazing story of an incident that happened in the concentration camps during the Holocaust. The teachers there, the rabbis there, they decided to put God on trial for what it had done to the Jews and to the rest of the people that were in the camps, because there were others, not just Jews. And they tried God. And the verdict was that God had not been faithful. And even after they had convicted God that it had not lived up to support them, after it was done, one of the rabbis stood up and said, "Now it's time for prayers." So even in that place, there was a turning back, to go back to the truth and to go back to what we can hold on to get us through the dark night of our souls. If we're honest, many of us are wrestling right now. turn on the news and 30 minutes into it, you feel like you've been in a wrestling match with Gorgeous George. Yeah, some of you are old enough to remember Gorgeous George. It took a moment. Yeah, there's war, there's political division, there's economic uncertainty, there are environmental concerns. And you've been following it or not, Paris is suffering a brutal heat wave. It's one of the hottest cities in the world right now. And they're not known for having air conditioning or wanting to use too much deodorant. Guys, you got to pick one or the other. Yeah. The temptations, when we go through all these, we see all these challenges, the temptation is to either to fall into despair and to conclude that everything is falling apart, or the other thing is just go into denial and to pretend as nothing has happened. But I don't think either is the correct spiritual path. And the path that Jacob chose, he faced reality. He didn't pretend his brother wasn't coming. He didn't deny his fear, but he doesn't surrender to it either. Instead, he enters the struggle. He stays present, and he keeps seeking the blessing. And I think that's one of the largest challenges of our time. How can we remain awake to the suffering of the world without being consumed by it? And can we acknowledge our problems without surrendering our hope? Can we remain informed without becoming cynical? Can we continue believing in the possibility of good even when the evidence is murky? That's the wrestling match we're in. To be in the world, but not of it. I read something interesting I did not know this week. Charles Darwin, the man who created the theory of natural selection, he constantly had wrestled with the idea of a supreme creator. He thought with the complexities of life that even with natural selection, that there had to be an original intent. But he was held back by an interesting idea. He said his greatest obstacle to believing in God was not human evil. It was the cruelty he saw in nature. And he specifically described the life of a parasitic wasp. This certain wasp will lay its eggs on the back of a caterpillar. And when the eggs hatch, they slowly feast on the caterpillar while it's still alive. Darwin said he could understand human cruelty because of free will, but he could not explain the cruelty he saw in nature. And I have to confess something. I don't have a satisfying answer. Perhaps some questions are just too large to be answered intellectually. Perhaps they have to come from the heart. Perhaps they have to be lived. Perhaps we have to hold on to our purpose for seeing love flow through us and for helping those around us and holding a vision of what life can be. This was what Jacob did. He didn't wrestle because he expected simple answers. He wrestled because life had become too complicated for simple answers. And my own need to remain hopeful doesn't come because I think life is always fair. It comes because I have a need to hold on to that hope to make it through life. And that's the reason I rely so heavily on affirmative prayer. Having a faith and a belief that even in the darkest times, I can avail myself to a power greater than I am that knows the answers even when I don't, and that can light the path for me even when I can't see it. There's a funny little movie that's been out for a long, long time now. I doubt many of you have seen it. It's called Sordid Lives. And Leslie Jordan, you may remember him from Will and Grace. He plays a man who spent most of his life in a psychiatric hospital because he dresses like Loretta Lynn. And his family has sent him to the state hospital, and they're not going to let him out till they cure him. Well, I guess it's better to dress like Loretta Lynn than George Jones, if I had my choice. Now, at the psychiatric hospital, the psychiatrist, she's trying to cure him. And at one point, she says, well, why do you do this? And he tells her, he says, well, Loretta's dead. He says, I've got to carry on her legacy. And she's this tortured soul. She did so much good. She saw much joy. I've got to carry it on. The psychiatrist says, well, you started dressing like her well before she died. What was your excuse then? And he thinks about it for a while, and he gets very serious. And he says, because it gets me through this hell. I can understand that. Life can be hellish at times. And I don't think it does us any good to deny it. But the spiritual life isn't pretending that there aren't hellish experiences. The spiritual life is about asking a different question. What good can I create in the middle of us? What is right in front of me? What is in front of my hands that I can use to make life better for myself, and if not for me, for those around me? How can I spread a little bit of light, a little bit of love, a little bit of compassion? A couple of weeks ago, I used example of someone, I've talked about her many times over, Friedel Dicker Brandeis. She was the art teacher who continued teaching art to children in the middle of the Nazi concentration camp. Her story stays with me. I actually accidentally came upon her story when I went to the Jewish Museum of Prague. And I remember going around and looking at those drawings, and I was just amazed. And it became kind of a timeless moment for me. And I made a promise to her that I would do what I could to spread her story, to get her story out to a greater audience. And this week, I finally stopped waiting and acted on that promise. I wrote a note to the Museum of Prague asking, is there a way that we could bring a traveling exhibit here of her art and the children's art here to St. Augustine? And if we couldn't do it, maybe we can create something similar here. Now, will it happen? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But it's moving the ball forward a little bit. And you never know what good can come from it. That one letter to, I'm sure, the curator of the museum in Prague, that may be enough to give her a little bit of encouragement to go out and spread the word further. It may encourage us to do something more. You never know how ripples of good, small actions can be. Jacob didn't wrestle because he knew how the story would end. He wrestled because it was the faithful thing to do. Sometimes faith isn't changing the whole world. Sometimes it's writing a letter. It's making a call. It's forgiving someone. Showing up for somebody in need. Choosing kindness over when anger would be easier. Now, there's a final story of Jacob's story that I love. He leaves limping. He's not unchanged. Anyone who has loved deeply, anyone who's buried someone they loved, anyone who's endured illness or lived through life's disappointments, we carry a limp of some kind. Our wounds don't have to define us. They can deepen us. They can soften us. They can enlarge our compassion. After the death of Princess Diana, Queen Elizabeth said something that I think is very profound. She said, grief is the price we pay for love. And perhaps that's the blessing Jacob discovered. Not that suffering disappears, but somewhere during the long night, something inside of us changes. Darwin wrestled, Jacob wrestled, Friedel wrestled, and even Christ. And so what are we to do with all of that? We live in a difficult world, and it's easy to be troubled in our heart. But don't assume something has gone wrong with your faith, even when you look out on the world with dismay. Maybe you're standing beside your own river. Perhaps you're doing exactly what Israel means. You are wrestling with life's deepest questions. And that wrestling is important. It's needed. It's necessary for you. Stay in the struggle. Stay in the conversation. Stay in relationship with Spirit. Don't let go until you have discovered your blessing, because you have come here to be blessed and to be a blessing. And you never know how much people are relying on you. You may not even know it. You may not even realize it. How much people who are struggling are looking for you for courage. The blessing is rarely that life seems to become easy. That's what we hope, but that doesn't happen. The blessing is that we become deeper, different. We become wiser. We become more compassionate. We become more courageous. Most of us are never going to go out and change the whole world. I don't even know if that's what we're here to do. But every one of us can refuse to allow the darkness to have the final say. All of us can refuse to let fear decide who we're going to become. That's what Jacob discovered on the side of the river. And that's what every generation is called to discover for themselves. And when that dawn finally breaks, when we finally discover what Jacob discovered, that the struggle itself has become a part of our awakening, that we will may walk away with a limp, but we're also going to walk away with a blessing, more compassionate, more courageous, more fully alive to the presence of God. Because love is stronger than hate, love is stronger than darkness, and the glory of God is still seeking expression through each and every one of us. And that's what we've come to do, and only we can do it. We are here to manifest the goodness and glory of God through our personalities, through our challenges, through our difficulties. We are here to shine forth, even when the dark seems so strong, even when it seems so vital. We are here to shine forth, and we can do it. Spirit is depending on us. It has called you by name from stardust, and it has never been disappointed in you for one moment. It is urging you on to be that bright, shining light of God's possibilities that you've come to be. And you're doing a great job. You are bright, you are shining forth, and you're making a difference. This is the truth in your life this morning. It's the truth in mine, and so it is. Thank you. Thank you.